When a woman interacts with a man who has a rich, fulfilling life and a genuine network of options, she senses immediately that his attention is a premium asset that must be actively competed for. She realizes that she does not hold all the cards, and that if she fails to treat him with respect and genuine effort, he will effortlessly walk away and never look back. Remember this fundamental truth for the rest of your life. The man who is truly capable of walking away from the table is always the one who holds absolute power in the dynamic. Stop obsessing over one single person. Build an abundant life of purpose and watch how fast the world begins chasing you. 7. Mystery triggers obsession. Mystery is the absolute fuel of psychological obsession, and it is one of the most powerful tools a man can master in the psychology of attraction. The less a woman knows about your exact daily routine, your deep seated insecurities, and your every single thought, the more her mind is forced to active overdrive to fill in the blanks. Human beings are naturally hardwired to think constantly about what they cannot fully understand or predict. When you leave gaps in your story, you are planting a seed in her subconscious mind that forces her to replay your conversations, analyze your body language, and think about you when you are completely out of sight. But the vast majority of men completely destroy this natural process by oversharing everything way too fast. They go on a first date and immediately unload their entire life story, their past relationship trauma, their career struggles, and their exact 5-year plan. They think that by being completely transparent, they are building a deep connection. But in reality, they are completely killing the excitement. When you lay all your cards on the table instantly, there is absolutely nothing left for her to figure out, and the thrill of the chase dies right then and there. You have to understand that women are natural decoders who are evolutionary and psychologically built to uncover the complex layers of a man's character over time. They don't want a story that gives away the ending in the very first chapter. They want to slowly discover who you are through your actions, your achievements, and your boundaries. When you post every single move you make on your social media stories, showing exactly what you are eating, where you are working out, and who you are hanging out with every single hour of the day, you completely rob her of the ability to wonder about you. You become entirely predictable, and predictability is the absolute death sentence of romantic desire. Maintaining an aura of mystery does not mean you have to act cold, distant, rude, or emotionally unavailable. It simply means mastering the art of self restraint and letting her experience your personality, your intelligence, and your life story in carefully controlled, high value doses. If you want to keep a woman deeply engaged and constantly thinking about you, you have to learn how to give her exciting cliffhangers instead of acting like a boring open book. Think about your absolute favorite television series. You don't keep tuning in week after week because you know exactly how the plot unfolds. You tune in because every single episode ends with an unanswered question, a sudden twist, or an intense moment of suspense that leaves you desperate to see what happens next. That is the exact same emotional tension you need to cultivate in your romantic interactions. When you are on a date or having a conversation, leave her wanting more by being the one who ends the interaction first while the energy is still high. Don't spend 5 hours texting back and forth about meaningless nonsense until the conversation naturally fizzles out and gets dry. Let her wonder what you are up to, who you are with, and what exciting projects you are working on when you aren't talking to her. That specific mental space, that quiet curiosity, and that precise psychological tension are the exact ingredients that transform a casual interest into a deep, unshakable obsession. Stop telling the world everything about yourself up front. Protect your privacy and become a compelling story that she simply cannot stop reading. 8. Validation is the ultimate weakness. The exact moment you begin seeking validation from a woman is the exact moment you hand over all your power on a silver platter and completely destroy your masculine edge. Far too many men fall into the destructive trap of constantly looking to a woman to confirm their worth, their looks, or their standing in her life. They ask needy questions like, Are we good? Or do you still like me? And they constantly fish for cheap reassurance to soothe their own internal anxieties. You might think this shows vulnerability or care, but in reality, it sends a loud and damaging signal to her subconscious mind that you do not believe you are enough on your own. It screams to her that you lack an internal compass, that you are insecure in your own skin, and that you need her permission to feel good about who you are as a man. Women are naturally repelled by this energy because they do not want to be a man's emotional crutch, nor do they want to play the role of a therapist who constantly has to prop up his fragile ego. You must make an absolute, unshakable commitment to never tie your confidence, your mood, or your self worth to someone else's fluctuating emotions or text message speed. When you allow your happiness to be dictated by whether she texts you back in 5 minutes or 5 hours, or whether she is in a good mood on a Tuesday afternoon, you are essentially turning yourself into a helpless puppet and you are handing her the strings. If she acts distant, a validation seeking man immediately panics, overcompensates, and begins begging for approval, which only drives her further away. Real internal strength means validating yourself from within, completely independent of outside opinions. You must know exactly who you are, what you bring to the table, and what your value is, whether she notices it, compliments it, or ignores it entirely. Your self esteem must be a fortress that cannot be shaken by a missed call, a dry reply, or a temporary shift in someone else's attention. The moment you completely stop looking to a woman to confirm your worth, the entire psychological power dynamic shifts in an instant. When she realizes that your confidence is entirely self generated and that you do not flinch, panic, or crave her approval, she is forced to look at you with an entirely new level of attraction. A woman cannot genuinely desire a man she can easily manipulate with a cold shoulder or a late reply. She craves a man who is solid, rooted, and completely self assured. She will deeply respect a man who defines himself by his own standards, his own mission, and his own self respect, rather than letting the world define him. And that deep, unshakable respect is the exact catalyst that flips the script and makes her want to chase after you. When it becomes clear that you are not begging for her validation, she will naturally begin working overtime to win yours. Stop giving away your power. Anchor yourself in your own self worth and let your absolute independence become the most magnetic thing about you. 9. Pull away to pull her in. Attraction does not grow when you are constantly in a woman's face, smothering her with attention and crowding her digital and physical space. A massive mistake most men make is assuming that the formula for romance is purely additive, that if they just pour in more texts, more phone calls, more compliments, and more forced interactions, the attraction will naturally multiply. But human psychology operates on a completely different frequency. Attraction needs oxygen to breathe, and it thrives on anticipation. It does not grow when you are standing right in front of her. It grows in the quiet, empty space you leave behind when you walk away. When you aggressively push your way into her life without giving her a second to breathe, you activate a natural defense mechanism that forces her to pull back. The harder you lean in, the more suffocating the dynamic becomes, and she will instinctively look for an exit strategy just to regain her autonomy. To spark real, visceral desire, you have to possess the courage to step back completely and give her the gift of your absolute absence. Pulling away has absolutely nothing to do with being passive aggressive, playing manipulative games, ghosting, or pretending to be cold and heartless. It simply means completely removing the exhausting pressure of your pursuit and recentering your focus where it actually belongs. It means making a conscious, disciplined decision to prioritize your own purpose, your career, your fitness, and your long term goals over her smartphone notifications. When you stop initiating every single conversation and stop trying to force an interaction every hour of the day, you create an undeniable psychological vacuum. By stepping back into your own life, you create a distinct emotional gap that she is forced to recognize. If you are always there, always available, and always answering her within 3 seconds, She never gets the chance to actually miss you or experience the feeling of wanting you around. You have to step out of the frame so she can actually see the full picture of your value. The moment you clear that space, you set up a natural psychological test that reveals exactly where you stand. If a woman is genuinely interested in you, she will notice your sudden silence, feel the weight of your absence, and feel compelled to step forward to close the distance herself. She will start initiating the conversations, checking in on your day, and finding excuses to bring you back into her world because she genuinely fears losing access to your high value energy. But if you step back and she completely disappears, you have your absolute answer. She was never invested in the first place, and you just saved yourself months of wasted time and dignity. Either way, you win. You have to stop clinging to her every move like a lost child and let the natural evolutionary push pull dynamic of human attraction do the heavy lifting for you. True masculine strength is found in knowing exactly when to detach, step back into your zone of purpose, and allow her the freedom to choose to pull you right back in. 10. Master self control, master the dynamic. The absolute truth that separates the masters of attraction from the men who constantly fail is incredibly simple. The man who controls himself completely controls the entire dynamic. Most men do not lose a woman because of their looks, their height, or their bank account. They lose the game because they possess absolutely zero emotional self control. The exact second things do not go their way, they completely unravel. They get intensely jealous when she talks to another guy. They overreact to minor misunderstandings. They explode with anger when they feel slighted. Or they completely panic and send a barrage of needy text messages when her reply is delayed by a few hours. Every single time you allow your emotions to dictate your actions in this way, you're actively broadcasting deep insecurity and weakness. You need to understand that every single time you lose your temper or break down into a panic, you instantly drop a massive level of respect in your eyes. And in the brutal world of female psychology, once respect is completely gone, genuine sexual desire dies right along with it. A woman can never truly desire a man whom she knows she can emotionally destabilize with a single cold shoulder or a late reply. You have to realize that women are psychologically and evolutionarily hardwired to test a man's stability, often without even consciously realizing they are doing it. They will throw curveballs at you, act temporarily distant, challenge your opinions, or change plans at the last minute for one simple reason. They want to see what you are made of, and they want to see if you will crack under pressure. They are testing to see if you are a grounded rock they can rely on, or a fragile house of cards that will blow away at the first sign of a storm. When you react with anger, passive aggressiveness, or desperate pleading, you fail the test instantly, proving that she holds all the emotional power in the relationship. But when you face a test, a late text, or a sudden change in plans, and respond with absolute calm, indifference, and a relaxed smile, you project an unshakable masculine frame. A man who remains completely grounded, unbothered, and unshakable under social pressure is an incredibly rare anomaly in the modern world. And that exact emotional mastery is wildly magnetic to a woman. Mastering this dynamic requires you to build an unshakable fortress around your impulses, your attention, and your emotional responses. You have to train yourself to stop reacting instantly to every little shift in your environment or her mood, and instead choose to respond with calculated, disciplined logic. If she takes 5 hours to text you back, you don't call her out. You don't ask where she was, and you certainly don't double text. You simply go about your day, focus on your work, and reply when it is completely unfazed. Completely unfazed. By controlling your impulses, you prove to her that your mind is ruled by your mission and your discipline, not by your fleeting feelings or primitive lust. This level of self mastery sets you completely apart from the vast majority of men who are entirely led by their erratic emotions, their anger, and their immediate impulses. When you master yourself, You set the exact pace, the exact standard, and the exact boundaries for how the relationship will unfold. You force her to rise to your level of strength. And when she sees that you cannot be broken or manipulated by her moods, she will have no choice but to respect you, look up to you, and chase after your unshakable presence.